Hey guys, how are you going? It is Ingrid here and welcome back to Bookmas. If you have not watched my other videos, I will have the playlist in the description. And today we're going to be talking about my favorite retellings. And why today? Well, it's December 4th, so I will tell you why that's important. You might not watch this on December 4th, but today, when I'm uploading it, it is December 4th. And I will tell you how that relates to fairy tale retellings. So I'm going to be telling you about the original Rapunzel story, or the person that inspired the Rapunzel fairy tale. And this is the story about Barbara. She was actually locked in a tower by her father to protect her from Christianity and also potential suitors. So she was locked in there for years, but she refused to listen to her father, and her father ordered her to get murdered. And she died on December 4th, the year of 306. And then later on, she became a saint in Christianity. She's also the reason why Santa Barbara in California is called Santa Barbara, which I thought was pretty interesting. But yeah, she inspired the fairy tale Rapunzel, and so I thought it was fitting to use this day to talk about my favorite fairy tale retellings. So I'm going to start off with one that I don't own, and that is the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I know this is pretty hyped. A lot of people love this series for good reason. This is a YA sci-fi retelling where every book you get introduced to a new character that is a fairy tale retelling, but they all like work together. It's a series, you have to read the first one and then continue it. So the first one is called Cinder, and it follows like the Cinderella retelling, and then we have Scarlet, which is Little Red Riding Hood retelling, then we have Cress, which is Rapunzel retelling, and then finally we have Winter, which is Snow White retelling. So in the first one we follow Cinder, and we have the mean stepmom character, and Cinder is a cyborg and she works with fixing different mechanical things, and that's how she makes money to give to her stepmom. And then her path crosses with Prince Kai's path, and stuff happens from there. I don't really want to say anything else. If you're a fan of fairy tale retellings, I do think you'll like this. It is a really good book. It's sci-fi, but it's also set like on our planet and the moon, so it's not too complex of a world to kind of get put into, if that makes sense. It's very similar to our world, so it's not too hard to understand, and they're also really good audiobooks. So yeah, highly recommend checking out this series if you have not already. And then next is the Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. This is a retelling of the Goose Girl. I think the original one is called as well. I have not read the original. I read this and then the next two books in the series. It's a 4-book series called The Books of Bayern. Also amazing audiobooks. It has a full cast and they're really good. I've actually only read them on audiobook, but I found this at a used bookstore in Australia. So this is the first one. Don't own the rest, and I have not read the 4th one. If you have read the 4th one, please let me know in the comments if I should read that one, but I highly recommend this audiobook. It is so much fun. So we follow Princess Annie, who can speak to animals and also kind of nature, and she experienced something pretty awful, and then we follow her and she has to learn kind of the value of family and friendship, and it was honestly so good. I listened to this, as I said, on audio while walking around the woods, and it was just perfect, and this is one that I will for sure be rereading. Highly recommend it. Next is a middle grade fantasy series, and this is the Fairy Tale Reform School series. There is one more book that is yet to be published that's coming out in March of 2020, I believe, and then this finish will be done. I have enjoyed the majority of this series, not every single book, but the majority of them. And I'm just going to talk about the first one. So the first one is called Flunked. Beautiful covers, by the way. But we follow this girl named Gilly, and she's kind of a bit of a criminal, and she gets sent to Fairy Tale Reform School, which is meant to make these people, you know, good citizens. And the school is run by former Disney villains. So the headmistress is the evil stepmom from Cinderella. And then you also have Ursula, the bad guy in Little Mermaid. We also have the big bad wolf from Little Riding Hood, as well as the evil queen from Snow White. So these are the teachers at this school. And then you also get to see some of the princesses like Cinderella and Snow White and all of that jazz. And it's really, really funny. It's set at this school. I really enjoyed that. There's some magic. There is mischief, obviously. And I really liked the protagonist because she's not your typical good girl, but she's not bad for the purpose of being bad. It's more like a survival thing. So I really enjoyed that. And I think these are very easy to just fly through, and it was fun to see these characters that you kind of know in like a whole new setting. So I guess this is technically not like a retelling, but it has like a lot of fairy tale characters in it, and it kind of has the question like, can villains truly change? Yeah, I really recommend this fun series. Yeah. Next up we have one of my favorite books of all time. That is Lost Boy by Christina Henry. This is an adult fantasy, maybe even horror, and it's so good. If you can't tell, it's a Peter Pan retelling. Peter Pan's my favorite childhood classic, and this is basically set from Captain Hook's perspective. And wow, I'm still not emotionally over this book, guys. And I will just read the prologue because it's so good. So it goes, once I was young, and young forever and always, until I wasn't. Once I loved a boy called Peter Pan. Peter will tell you that this story isn't the truth, for Peter lied. I loved him, we all loved him, but he lies. For Peter wants always to be that shining sun that we all revolve around. He'll do anything to be that sun. Peter says I'm a villain, that I wronged him, that I never was his friend. But I told you already. Peter lies. This is what really happened. Guys. This is great. If you've ever wondered what like Captain Hook backstory might be, this is good. This portrays him as being like a part of the Lost Boys, and wow, just wow. And this author does have other books out. I've purchased 2 of them, being Alice, which is a Alice in Wonderland retelling, as well as The Mermaid, that is a Little Mermaid retelling, and I know she also has a Little Red Riding Hood retelling out. So I plan on reading all of them, because if there's one book that you read after watching this video, this one is so good. Especially if you like Peter Pan. If it sounds interesting, just, I cannot gush about this enough. It's great. And then I actually have a contemporary on my list, and that is Geekerella by Ashley Poston, not sure how to pronounce it. But this is a Cinderella retelling in the most geeky way you can think of. And so we follow this girl named Ella, and she is a huge fan of this show called, what was it called again? Called Starfield. And there's like a whole convention around this. And so this show was very old, but they're doing like a reboot, and the actor that is going to portray the main character is not one that Elle wants to portray him. And so we do follow the actor some chapters as well. And it's just so good. If you like nerd culture, things like Comic-Con, or you just think it sounds interesting, then definitely check this out. I'm not a huge fan of contemporaries, but I gave it 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. And I have bought the sequel, which is called The Princess and the Fangirl, which is a companion novel. And we follow some of the characters, but not the main characters. And I know that she has announced that there will be a 3rd book out as well. That is going to be a Beauty and the Beast contemporary retelling with some of the characters. So it's not often that I recommend contemporaries, but this one I really enjoyed. And then the last book I'm going to recommend, because I do have 2 graphic novels as well, is Stalking Jack the Ripper. I'm not sure if this like counts as a retelling, but I'm going to include it because I really enjoyed it. But this is of course like a retelling of what could have happened with Jack the Ripper. Of course, that case is unsolved, so we will never really know. So this is set at around that time. It is so good. It's a mystery, and the main character is kick-ass. And again, I think the back just sums it up so well, so I will just read that. He murdered women in cold blood. He terrorized an entire city. He He taunted those of us who hunted him down. But despite all these horrors, in the end, I could not deny it. I was the girl who loved the Ripper. I know a lot of people have said that they saw the plot twist coming. I personally did not. I really like this. And it is a 4-book series, I believe. I had the second one, haven't continued yet, but I will because really, really enjoyed it. And it also has some creepy pictures in it that kind of just added to the story. So yeah, if it sounds interesting, be sure to pick this up. And then I have 2 graphic novels to talk about. The first one being the Peter Panzerfaust, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, series. We have 5 volumes, so I will just be talking about the first one. So this is again another Peter Pan retelling. This is set during the Second World War, where the Lost Boys is a pack of boys that are French orphans, and Peter Pan is an American guy that kind of comes to the rescue. And they end up teaming up, and it's really good. I think this one is one that's even better if you've actually read Peter Pan, but you're still going to get a lot of the references if you haven't. We get like the Wendy character, we get the Tiger Lily character, a Hook character, and it's really, really good, and it does focus, you know, on World War II. This is not one for younger readers, even though Peter Pan is a children classic. This one is definitely adult. And the art style is not the kind of art that I usually tend to go for, but it does fit the tone of these really, really well. And as I said, 5 volumes. It is definitely worth the read if you think it sounds interesting, if you're a fan of historical fiction or just a Peter Pan fan like me. Then it's worth the read. Then the last one is a graphic novel called Norway. This is book 1, The Black Bull of Norway. And I believe it's going to be 3 books, and I know they're working on book 2, so that will come out, and hopefully not too long. It is made by 2 sisters, and this is a retelling of a Scottish fairy tale. And the Scottish fairy tale is called The Black Bull of Norway. And I have not read the original, and you don't have to. I am interested in reading the original, but I kind of want to read first this because this is the first. I don't want the ending to be spoiled. But we follow this girl, Sibylla, and she goes to a witch, and the witch tells her that one day she will marry a bull. And then that happens, and the bull comes to get her. She goes away with him, and it ends up being a lot more complicated than that. And it's kind of like, is the bull a monster? Is it a man? It's very interesting. You do not get like answers in this one, but the art style is gorgeous. It's like this. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy our main character, and I'm very excited to see where this story goes. So that was my favorite fairy tale retellings. Please let me know. Well, Jack and Jack the Ripper isn't a fairy tale, but generally fairy tale. Peter Pan isn't a fairy tale either. I should not have called this a fairy tale. My favorite retellings. So let me know in the comments what your favorite retellings are. Be sure to subscribe so that you get the rest of my Bookmas videos. I will also have all of the books I've talked about in the description if you want to go check them out, as well as my social media and my Bookmas playlist. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please chat to me in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.